In the 1980s and early 1990s, the name Pablo Escobar was synonymous with drugs, violence, and terror. As the leader of the notorious Medellin cartel, he built a billion-dollar empire on the illegal trade of cocaine and terrorized Colombia with his ruthless tactics. But how did the government manage to track down and capture one of the world's most wanted criminals? In this video, we'll explore the fascinating story of how the Colombian government, with the help of the United States, finally brought down the kingpin of cocaine. From rags to riches, Pablo Escobar's life was nothing short of a Hollywood blockbuster. But with great power comes great responsibility, and his legacy continues to haunt Colombia to this day. Pablo Escobar's rise to power. Born into poverty in the city of Rio Negro, Colombia, Pablo Escobar started out as a small-time criminal before rising to become one of the world's most notorious drug lords. He began by trafficking marijuana before transitioning to cocaine, which was in high demand in the United States. By the mid-1980s, he was smuggling over 15 tons of cocaine into the United States each day, making him one of the richest men in the world. His wealth allowed him to buy off politicians, judges, and law enforcement officials, effectively making him untouchable. How did Escobar become so powerful, and why was he so difficult to catch? What impact did his drug empire have on Colombia, both in terms of violence and corruption? As Escobar's power and influence grew, so did the Colombian government's determination to take him down. The government, with the help of the United States, launched a massive crackdown on drug trafficking in the late 1980s, targeting not just Escobar but also other drug lords and their associates. This effort included extradition agreements, aerial surveillance, and a joint task force between the United States and Colombian governments. The government's war on drugs was not without its controversies, however. Some criticized the government's use of extrajudicial killings and other violent tactics in their pursuit of drug traffickers. Others argued that the war on drugs was primarily driven by US interests and that it did more harm than good by fueling violence and instability in Colombia. Despite these criticisms, the government's effort did have some successes. They were able to extradite several high-profile drug traffickers to the US, where they faced trial and imprisonment. The joint task force between the US and Colombian governments also played a crucial role in gathering intelligence and targeting key figures in the drug trade. What tactics did the government use to combat the drug trade, and were they effective? How did the US government's involvement in the war on drugs impact its relationship with Colombia? The hunt for Escobar. The notorious drug lord and leader of the Medellin cartel was one of the most intense manhunts in history. It took years of intelligence gathering, covert operations, and a massive coordinated effort between the Colombian government and the United States to finally track him down and bring him to justice. In this video, we will explore the fascinating story of the hunt for Escobar and how it ultimately led to his downfall. Pablo Escobar grew up in poverty in the city of Medellin, Colombia, but he soon found a way to climb the ranks of the drug trade. He started as a small-time smuggler, but quickly rose through the ranks to become the leader of the Medellin cartel, which dominated the cocaine trade in the 1980s. Escobar's power and wealth grew exponentially during this time, as he used his ruthless tactics and extensive network of loyal associates to expand his empire. He controlled every aspect of the cocaine trade, from the production of the drug to its distribution around the world. He also amassed an enormous personal fortune, estimated to be in the billions of dollars. The beginning of the hunt. Despite his immense power and wealth, Escobar was not untouchable. The Colombian government had been pursuing him for years, but their efforts had largely been unsuccessful. This changed in 1991 when the Colombian government and the United States began working together to bring down the Medellin cartel. One of the key players in the hunt for Escobar was the US Drug Enforcement Administration, which had been working in Colombia for years to combat the drug trade. They provided intelligence and expertise to the Colombian government and helped to coordinate a massive effort to capture Escobar and other top drug traffickers. The search for Escobar was not easy, however. He had an extensive network of loyal associates and was constantly on the move, making it difficult to track his movements. He also had a massive security force that was willing to use violence to protect him from capture. The search heats up. Despite the challenges, the hunt for Escobar continued. The Colombian government and the US worked together to target his associates, hoping to gather intelligence on his whereabouts. They also launched a massive aerial surveillance campaign, using helicopters and planes to search for Escobar from the air. One of the key breakthroughs in the search for Escobar came in 1992, when Colombian authorities were able to intercept one of his phone calls. This provided valuable intelligence on his location and allowed them to track him to a safe house in Medellin. The ensuing raid on the safe house was one of the most intense battles in the hunt for Escobar. Colombian authorities, with the help of US Special Forces, stormed the building in a fierce gun battle that lasted for hours. In the end, however, Escobar managed to escape and the hunt continued. The endgame. The hunt for Escobar was starting to close in. The Colombian government and the US were closing in on his network of associates, and they were getting closer to his inner circle. In 1993, Colombian authorities made a bold move. They began to use Escobar's own family against him, arresting his brother and using him as leverage to try to get Escobar to turn himself in. This tactic worked, and on December 2, 1993, Escobar surrendered to Colombian authorities. What do you think were the most effective tactics used in the hunt for Escobar, and why? What impact do you think the hunt for Escobar had on the Colombian government and its people? In the end, it was a joint effort between the Colombian government and the United States that brought down Pablo Escobar, the kingpin of cocaine. Through a combination of extradition agreements, aerial surveillance, and intelligence gathering, they were able to track down and capture one of the most notorious criminals of the 20th century. While his death did not end the drug trade in Colombia, it did deal a significant blow to the Medellin cartel, and showed that even the most powerful criminals are not above the law. However, the legacy of Pablo Escobar continues to haunt Colombia to this day, and the country still struggles with the aftermath of the drug war. Nevertheless, the story of how the government tracked down and brought down Pablo Escobar remains a fascinating and important chapter in the history of the war on drugs, and a testament to the power of cooperation and perseverance in the face of one of the greatest criminal empires the world has ever seen.